According to the National Center for Education and Statistics, about 3.3 million high school students are expected to graduate this year. And out of that 3.3 million, only 6% of them will graduate adequately equipped with critical thinking skills. That's only 198,000 students. Critical thinking is so important, but yet it's not happening at the rate we need to see. Why is that? And what can we do about it? Hi again, everybody. It's Sharon Brown here, curriculum innovator, professional developer, and instructional leadership coach. And I'm back as promised with the third in a series of your free instructional leadership coaching videos that are valued at over $2,000 to answer the question, what is the secret to increasing critical thinking at your school? Answering this question has taken us through 2 of 3 phases so far. First, we took a look at revealing the major obstacle. And the last time, we looked at how to remove the major obstacle. And while doing that, we saw that after almost at least 3 decades of headlines indicating that we graduate a population of poor critical thinkers, we still have headlines indicating that we graduate a population of poor critical thinkers. 72% of leaders surveyed across the country believe that professional development is the answer. And while we agree that it's a part of the answer, the secret was revealed along with an immediate solution to get at the root. Clarity and alignment. Because without clarity and alignment on the part of your staff, teaching and assessment practices are misaligned across your school, and data discussions are misaligned conversations where everyone is talking from the mental model in their own heads. And we know not all mental models are aligned. With the secret revealed, you are probably ready to shout it from the hills, but we already talked about why creating awareness among your staff was important. With the action steps from the first instructional coaching video, you were armed with the data you needed to move on to the second phase of removing the obstacle. In the second instructional coaching video, we looked at the importance of having a clear process for shifting mindsets. And so we moved from the awareness stage to the acceptance stage in the paradigm shifting process. Again, you left armed, but this time with an outline for up to 7 hours worth of professional learning for your staff, where first you would help your staff become aware of their differences in how they understand critical thinking and the potential implications those differences could have on your students' academic progress throughout your school. Second, you were armed with a clear definition and elaboration for your staff to clarify the meaning. Oh, and if at this point you're saying, Sharon, what are you talking about? Because you haven't had the opportunity to watch the first 2 videos yet, I understand. Go back and take a look at the first 2. They are loaded with details, strategies, action steps, and examples. For the third professional learning strategy, I shared the tools of critical thinking that you would equip your staff with, along with examples for how to use them explicitly with the Common Core State Standards. So again, if you're wondering what those examples look like, go back and check out the second instructional coaching video. So far, I've gotten feedback through email, and I thank you. It's been fabulous. But I want to share your insights and allow your voice to join with others. So below in the comment section, I'd like for you to share your comments, like this one that I've received. Now, at this point, you may be having thoughts similar to other leaders I've coached, like, I'm ready to get this done, but I have to delegate this to someone else. Or you may be thinking, I'm ready to rock and roll, but it would be helpful to have a thought partner to support me with organizing all of this on my PD calendar. If you're having these or similar thoughts, I created something that you'll appreciate, but we'll get to that later. So you have your strategies now for revealing and removing the major obstacle to increasing critical thinking skills at your school. Great. Now what? We raise your students' investment in increasing their own critical thinking skills by creating their opportunities for awareness, acceptance, and ownership. But how? Engage them in the process. Now, let's track back a little, and if you already know what I'm about to say, then bear with me for a few seconds on this. The OECD, or the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, is a worldwide organization made up of countries that are members and partners, and the US is a partner. The OECD oversees the Program for International Student Assessment, or the PISA. Countries that are a part of the OECD assess a sampling of their 15-year-olds to evaluate their thinking and reasoning abilities. The most recent results suggested that socioeconomically disadvantaged students with high levels of engagement, drive, motivation, and self-beliefs share many characteristics of advantaged high achievers. In a nutshell, engaged students perform like high achievers. So the third phase of the obvious but untapped secret to increasing students' critical thinking skills is to engage them. Engage students in their own thinking. We can help students increase their critical thinking by engaging their metacognitive abilities. Yes, their metacognitive abilities. Now, after years of coaching and facilitating professional learning, I've learned that that's another term educators use quite frequently, but have conflicting understandings about. So I want to be clear with you about what I mean. When I say engage their metacognitive abilities, I mean more than the typical statement of thinking about thinking. When we talk about metacognition, that's the quick and easy thing to say, thinking about our thinking. But what does that mean, really? Well, to be more specific, I'm talking about the three major areas that John Flavel referred to in his classic work on metacognition. Those three areas are knowing what strategies to use for learning, thinking, and problem solving. In shorthand, you can refer to this as strategic knowledge. The second major area is knowing what tasks are required for learning. This includes stuff like knowing that a first grade book is easier to read than a 12th grade book. You as the reader would know that the cognitive task required for the first is less challenging than the other, which connects to the third major area of metacognition and thinking about our thinking. The third major area is knowing what your own strengths and challenges are in relation to learning. The shorthand term you can use for this is self-knowledge. So again, to be sure that we have a common understanding when using common language, the thinking that we want our students to be thinking about is knowing what strategies to use when learning, knowing what tasks are required for learning, and knowing their strengths and growth opportunities. Now that we are absolutely on the same page as it relates to being precise with our language about metacognition, let's get back to the topic of engaging students. You can raise student investment by creating the experiences for students to engage in monitoring the improvement of their thinking. And this can be accomplished by using another professional learning session to allow teachers the time to create a My Thinking checklist that students can use to become more aware of their thinking and accept their ability to own their growth. There are those two words again, awareness and acceptance. Here's what you can do. By the time you get to this session, you would have already provided teachers with the 8 thought elements. That happened in the third professional learning session. Also, by now, the teachers would have aligned the standards with the thought elements. At this time, you want to have your teachers create a checklist for students that coincides with all of the elements. Here's an example of what I mean. Let's say the teachers are making a thinking checklist, or you can call it a protocol, for the thought element of purpose. It might look something like this, where they want students to self-check or engage in metacognition by answering the following questions for themselves, like, did I state my purpose clearly? Did I make my purpose clearly stand out from related purposes? Did I check myself throughout the reasoning process to make sure I stayed on target? And did I select realistic and significant purposes? Or let's say the teachers are making the checklist to engage students in their own metacognition for question. The checklist or protocol would require students to reflect on questions like, did I state my question in more than one way to clarify meaning? Did I break the question down into sub-questions? And did I determine what questions had a definite answer from those whose answers were based on opinions or multiple point of view? Later, when students use the checklist, they would not only be required to check off what they've done, but they should also be required to justify what they've checked. This would build in investment and accountability. Now, there are a number of ways the checklist can be integrated with instruction. One way is when students are turning in an assignment, they would evaluate their thinking in the assignment by using the checklist. And after they receive their teacher's feedback, they would compare it with how they think they were thinking. Their discrepancies or misunderstandings could even be addressed in student-teacher conferences with the checklist. Another strategy for instructional integration is to have the students create data folders where they would track their improvement. Now, when you do this, I want to offer a recommendation. Don't make this a part of the teacher's gradebook. You don't want students thinking that their thinking is being graded. They're liable to disengage because they'll connect their thinking to their self-esteem, and you want to avoid that. You want your students to be engaged while monitoring their thinking. So make it fun and keep it engaging. There you have it. You are chock filled with action steps and professional development strategies to last for hours. And they all lead to revealing and removing the obvious but untapped secret to increasing critical thinking skills at your school through raising student investment. Now, other leaders I've coached through planning for their staff have said to me things like, Dr. B, this is great stuff, but it was a lot of information. I need to organize all of this. I need to do this, but I can see it taking quite a bit of time to plan and organize. If you're having similar thoughts, then I have something just for you. At the time of this recording, I'm still putting the finishing touches on a system I put together for a few principals for organizing, planning, and delivering all of this to their staff. So in a few days, I'll be back to let you know more about how you can benefit from what I've done for them. But for now, go ahead and get started with whatever stage you're at in the process. And in a few days, I'll be back to tell you more about what I've put together to help the principals that have asked for me to be a thought partner in organizing, strategizing, delivering, and monitoring all of the hours of professional learning I've given to you for the last 3 videos. Okay? For now, I want to hear your voice. Go ahead and share your thoughts below. I'm reading as many responses as I can here and in my inbox. So do me a favor and let's keep them all here. And I'll personally respond to as many of your comments as I can. I am loving the opportunity to serve you this way, so thank you. Take care for now until the next video, and I'll talk to you in the comments below.